Today we'll be doing a tier list breakdown for Lady Gaga's art pop album. This is a post-reaction review. This is where I'll group the respective songs into different categories, with amazing being the best of the bunch, great being secondary, and all the way down to bad. So I'm excited to do this. This is kind of like a new format I'm checking out. After reactions, just to get a bit better feel after I've had a lot of, well, a larger length of time to sit with the project. So this is about a month after I've listened to ARTPOP, so I think enough time has passed and I've heard the songs quite enough to get a better grasp. So coming from the original reaction, we'll see which songs I've liked a lot more. We'll also see if there are any songs that I've liked less. I won't be doing them in chronological order based on the album's track list, so we'll mix it up a bit. I don't want to do all the ones that I think are great versus all the ones that I think are less great, but not necessarily bad. I mean, naturally I do expect some of you to possibly agree with me. I also expect some of you to not so much agree with me, which is also fine, but let's go. Aura. Alright, let's do Aura. So immediately, I think Aura is good. So we'll put Aura in the good category. If you see me looking down, I did make some additional notes just to go over what I thought about the track. So let me tell you what I have down for Aura. Is the opener to the album. I think it's solid. It has some questionable lyrics at certain times. I do remember her referring to killing her father, which I found very strange. I didn't get the whole concept there, but there were still other things to appreciate. I did like how the chorus sounded. It sounded a lot more on that poppy wavelength type of vibe, as opposed to the verses, which kind of still are a bit hard to get used to for me personally. I just have not really settled into that sound the verses gave off, but the chorus was very spacious, it was very poppy, it was very full, and I do actually like the melodies. Behind the horror, yeah, not much of a singer, but Aura is a solid opener. It's not bad by any regard, so I think good right in that middle section is a good area to place it. We'll move on to, alright, let's do Guy. And I'm gonna say Guy was great. This was surprisingly great. I love the contrast between G.U.Y being Guy, but it actually being an acronym which stood for Girl Under You. I just thought that was really dope the way that she played it off with stuff like that. And the chorus is actually really catchy. I'm not one who loves choruses that go for that spelling thing, but that G.U.Y, yeah, it works for me here. It's really solid. Some of the theatrical elements musically really worked well, coupled with the song, I must say. And overall, I think Guy was a really great track. It came earlier in the album, and it definitely helped to up tempo per se. I mean, the album is overall a very up tempo album, but Guy was one of the first ones that really hooked me. And I think this was around track 4 or so pretty early in the album, and it was one of my favorites easily. It's not gonna go into the amazing category, but great is a really solid place to put it. We'll also, let's move on to, let's do Jewels and Drugs. I think this might be a bit controversial because I don't know how the fan base feels about this song. I don't know how the fan base feels about any of the songs, to be honest, but Jewels and Drugs, this is a nonsense pop rap collab. Lyrically, I have no idea what they're saying about. It's a bit sparse lyrically, to be honest. It definitely falls into the category of almost mediocre by the subject matter. However, it's about the vibe, and this is so upbeat. So I was gonna say uplifting. It's not uplifting, but it's definitely upbeat. I feel like all of the artists is featured here, being Gaga, G.U.Y, Um, it's too short. I think it's too short. Too short was probably my least favorite, but it wasn't bad. But he definitely did not really compare to the other two rappers technically here because Twista and T.I. really put down some solid verses. And I want to highlight the key switches that took place throughout the song. Definitely elevated it for me personally, and that's what put it in the good category. Yes, lyrically it's one of the weaker tracks, but the overall vibe, it gets you hyped. That definitely lends to the track going into the good category for me. One of the more decent cuts here. We'll go on to, let's do Venus next. Alright, I'm kidding. I do like Venus. Venus. I think I pointed this out in the review originally, that one of my favorite things about Venus was how the track gradually progresses from this grounded, not grounded pop EDM track, how it gradually transitions into this more alien-esque vibe. And with the track entitled Venus, you would expect someone to take it artistically from a grounded pop section to almost this alien-esque vibe, especially as the track progresses. So I love the production on this. And surprisingly, I did see some of the comments saying that she was actually like the main producer on this, and it was one of her first times producing. So I have to give her credit for that because I actually genuinely like Venus. It's actually really good for me per se. Let's go on to, I'm just randomly choosing here. Let's do Donatella. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Is that fair? Actually, I think I'm gonna go here. I'm probably gonna piss people off with this, but this is genuinely how I felt about Donatella. I want to read the notes that I wrote on this, and it's a pretty short. The notes here are pretty short. I said, again, this has some solid melodies, but just does not hook me enough to be ranked any higher. And that's pretty much it. That's how I feel about Donatella. It just does not stand out enough. It kind of bleeds into the album sonically. It does not give off anything new that we didn't explore on other tracks. And it just came kind of like in the mid to later section of the album, which by that time I was already looking forward to something new or innovative, but it's a deep cut. Definitely know that there are fans out there that probably love this song, but for me, I'm gonna put it in the bad category just so I'm not being biased, or that's just so I'm not pandering, because I'm trying to be as authentic here with this review as possible. So yes, I think Donatella does fall into that bad category. Let's move on to, you know what? I think, alright, let's move Donatella up a bit because it's not, I think bad might be a bit too harsh for Donatella. And that's just because I'm gonna put this one here. I'm not the audience for it, it doesn't work for me. And that's just all I have to say about it. This is not one that I'll put on at any time, to be honest. Yeah. The only positive I want to point out on this was the synth bass. The synth bass on this is actually really good, but it's just not enough there to save this track from feeling a bit empty. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's been a fair ranking thus far. Let's do this one. Surprisingly, I did not react to this song. For some reason, it wasn't on the version of the album that I checked out. So I had to, while preparing for this, I had to go and listen to this on my own time in. And it's a song that I've heard before. I don't know if it has a sample or not or if this is actually just original. But this is amazing. This is easily one of the best songs here. I don't know if it is the best, but it's definitely one of the best for me personally. Just because it ticks all of the boxes. Production's on point, vocals on point, the feature is on point. It says Xtina here. I think that's Christina Aguilera, another artist that I'm not super familiar with in terms of their musical output, but I do know the name. I know she's a massive artist, great vocalist, good pop diva. So, yes, this is just an amazing song. I haven't listened to it enough coming into this review, but just on the couple listens that I did give it, it was tremendously amazing, and I was very much impressed by Do What I Want or Do What You Want. Yeah. Hate that I missed this interaction because it's superb. Definitely one of the best here, and definitely deserves that amazing spot. Let's go on to Mary Jane Holland. Mary Jane Holland. Yeah, I like this song. I like this song. Let me tell you what my notes are on Mary Jane. How this is probably controversial, but I enjoy every single aspect of this track, especially the different vocal tempo switches and inflections. That's all I have to say on it. It's a great song. It's one of those where I feel like you'll either love it or you hate it. But for me, it works. It just works for me, really. So Mary Jane Holland definitely deserves this spot, and I don't regret putting it there by any means. So, yeah, I think it's one of those that definitely deserves to be on that. Great. Maybe I'm pandering to a specific audience with this one, but I like Mary Jane Holland, and I'm not being biased. Well, maybe a little bit, but yeah. Mary Jane Holland is gonna stay in that great category. Hopefully I haven't lost any of y'all. Maybe this is a very awful list. But again, it's about my taste. And hopefully y'all can respect my opinion, as misguided as it might be. Alright, so let's move on to, let's do Applause. So this is kind of like a major single from the album. It's one of the few songs that I definitely have heard before I checked out the entire project. It's a good song. It's a good single. It definitely fit the era that it came from. Do I think it's great or amazing? Probably not, but it has everything working for it, especially in production, vocal, and that refrain, that applause, applause. Yeah, it just works. It's very simple, but it's from its time. It definitely puts you in that time capsule going back to that early 2010s vibe. So I'm gonna put applause here. May have been the biggest single from here. I'm not certain how it did on the charts, but this might be a #1 single. I don't know, but it's had to be massive. So applause is gonna go into the good category. And so far, this is a pretty solid album lineup. I think I gave the album an 8 or 8.5. So, which might come as a shocker because I did notice a lot of y'all were saying that this is her most controversial project. So I'm assuming that this definitely splits the fan base. You either love it or you hate it. So I thought that was a pretty cool nuance to have, especially coming here to rank it now. I'm gonna assume this is only gonna drive a wedge between me and the Gaga fans a lot more. But yeah, bear with me. We're gonna move on, and we're gonna go to Act Like a Swine. Act like a swine. Good. Swine goes into the good category. I think her vocal inflections on Swine work. I think she oinked at one point, or almost oinked. I think I pointed that out in the original reaction. And I thought that was dope. That was cool. I like how the song portrays disgust, annoyance. With a song entitled Swine, you would expect something a bit more gritty, something a bit more in the mud per se. And I think she does deliver artistically in that direction on this song. So it definitely goes into the good category for me. It's not enough to go to great, but good seems like a pretty decent spot to put it. And you have to understand a good is probably like a 7.5 or 8 in numeric rating. So I think that's pretty fair. We're gonna move on to, let's say, let's do ARTPOP. What I love about ARTPOP is definitely how open-ended it is as a track. You don't necessarily know what the song is about just because she says it. Her ARTPOP could mean anything. I think the production is great. I think it's kind of groovy. And as a title track, it does carry its own weight. I wouldn't have minded if this was a single. And I'm saying that not knowing if it was, but I don't think it was a single just because I haven't heard it before. Well, that's not saying much because I haven't heard quite a number of her singles, which we will get into as I go through her different catalog, her different aspects of the catalog. So our pop does get amazing from me. So we have two really amazing songs left thus far. All right, so we only have 4 tracks to go, but I think they should be interesting. Fashion is good. As I was saying in the reaction, it does lend itself to that Vogue, catwalk type of vibe, and I think it does enough to work. Is it something that I listen on a daily basis? No. However, it does have those aspects that makes you appreciate it as a song itself. Well, even a song in the wider scope of the album, it does give you that feeling of, oh wow, this does not necessarily cater to me or my taste. However, I can tell that this is a good song and I can respect it and give it credit for that. So that's why fashion gets a good from me. So a lot of people were pointing out that I skipped Manicure. I did not skip Manicure. It just somehow got left off the final cut for some mistaken reason, but I did react to this. This was a part of the reaction. Manicure is amazing for me. I definitely love it. I did my notes. I like the little cheerleading type of beat that was going on, especially at the core, coupled with the tone, and then specifically the instrument that stood out for me on Manicure was those guitars that came kind of started to sing along as the song got to like the midsection towards the latter half. So those were the highlights for me on Manicure, but yeah, I love that little cheerleading beat that was going on. Definitely fits the vibe, gave me kind of like a bring it on type of vibe. I I don't know why it got cut. Well, most of it got cut from the reaction, but I did enjoy Manicure, so I'm gonna give it an amazing. Easily one of my favorites. Hmm. Open Gypsy. This might be a bit. Huh. Huh. It kind of just dawned on me. I was kind of like confused in what was going on, but I do remember Dope. Dope was a ballad, and it was an amazing ballad. I love you more than Dope. Yeah, I love that. I love that little melody. I love how vulnerable it sounded. I love how raw it sounded. I love how authentic it sounded. I love the fact that even though it was a pop ballad, it still had elements that grounded it into this EDM pop dance crossover mashup that was going on throughout the entire project. So I love that even though it's distinctively different sonically, it still has those little aspects that grounds it into the wider scope of the album. So I just wanted to shout out Dope. But yes, that concludes my amazing list. The final track, which is Gypsy, does not go amazing. And it's actually really interesting with Gypsy because I feel like Gypsy started out wonderfully. It had that slower tempo build, but as Gypsy progressed, it just got so almost generic sounding for me. And I did highlight it that even though the song, rather, even though the song started off so promising, just kind of faded into that obscurity of not being distinct enough. I just feel like we had better versions of Gypsy throughout the album. And the only thing of highlight that I remember from Gypsy was that long unending creep up before the beat drop, which lasted, I said it was like 20 seconds, but it was probably more like under 10, but nearing that 10 region. I think it was interesting, but even then the drop was still underwhelming for me. So I'm gonna give Gypsy a meh. Yeah, I think overall I'm happy with this rating. So this is essentially what I think about art pop a month or a little over a month after, because I did check this out probably back in September, I think, late September. So it's been some time that I've sat with the album. I've gone through it quite a couple of times. And I think overall, these are the songs that I've enjoyed the most. So overall, you can see if I only have one song in bad, that's just me, the critic in me being critical. Because Sex Dreams, I can promise you, I've heard far worse songs than Sex Dreams. It's not really that. It's not really that bad to be honest, but you know, we have to be fair. In the widest scope of the album, it's one of the weaker tracks. So yeah, I'm overall happy with this rating to be honest. Let me know what your ranking below would be. Let me know the ones that you think are amazing versus the ones that you think are bad. If you think everything is amazing, that's also fine. Like, no judgment here. We'll agree to disagree, but overall, I think I'm pretty happy with this.